Hello again, and welcome to today's Slow English. Today's story, read at a slower pace, is called The Two Brides. Now, Che Shang, or Wang Sun, was one of the cleverest young fellows in the district, and his father and mother, who had foreseen his ability from the time when, as a baby, in long clothes, he distinguished them from other people, loved him very dearly. He grew up into a handsome lad. At 8 or 9, he could compose elegantly, and by 14, he had already entered his name as a candidate for the first degree, after which his marriage became a question for consideration. Now, his father's youngest sister, Niang, had married a gentleman named Chang Tzu Chao, and they had a daughter called Kuei Xu, who was extremely pretty, and with whom Che Shang fell deeply in love. Being soon unable either to eat or to sleep, his parents became extremely uneasy about him and inquired what it was that ailed him. And when he told them, they at once set off a matchmaker to Mr. Chang. The latter, however, was rather a stickler for the proprieties, and replied that the near relationship precluded him from accepting the offer. Thereupon, Che Shang became dangerously ill, and his mother, not knowing what to do, secretly tried to persuade Niang to let her daughter come over to their house. But Mr. Chang heard of it and was so angry that Che Shang's father and mother gave up all hope of arranging the match. At that time, there was a gentleman named Chang living nearby, who had 5 daughters, all very pretty. But the youngest, called Wu Kuo, was singularly beautiful, far surpassing her 4 sisters. She was not betrothed to anyone, when one day, as she was on her way to worship at the family tombs, she chanced to see Che Shang, and at her return home spoke about him to her mother. Her mother guessed what her meaning was, and arranged with a matchmaker named Mrs. Yu to call upon Che Shang's parents. This she did precisely at the time when Che Shang was so ill, and forthwith told his mother that her son's complaint was one she, Mrs. Yu, was quite competent to cure, going on to tell her about Miss Wu Kuo and the proposed marriage, at which the good lady was delighted, and sent her in to talk about it to Che Shang himself. "Alas!" cried he, when he had heard Mrs. Yu's story, "you are bringing me the wrong medicine for my complaint." "All depends upon the efficacy of the medicine," replied Mrs. Yu. "If the medicine is good, it matters not what is the name of the doctor who administers the draught, while to set your heart on a particular person and to lie there and die because that person doesn't come is surely foolish in the extreme." "Ah," rejoined Che Shang, "there's no medicine under heaven that will do me any good." Mrs. Yu told him his experience was limited and proceeded to expatiate by speaking and gesticulating on the beauty and liveliness of Wu Kuo. But all Che Shang said was that she was not what he wanted, and turning round his face to the wall, would listen to no more about her. So Mrs. Yu was obliged to go away, and Che Shang became worse and worse every day, until suddenly one of the maids came in and informed him that the young lady herself was at the door. Well, the story's getting very exciting now, and you can hear the next part very soon. Now, the next part of the story. Immediately he jumped up and ran out, and lo! There before him stood a beautiful girl, whom, however, he soon discovered not to be Kuei Su. She wore a light yellow robe with a fine silk jacket and an embroidered petticoat, from beneath which her 2 little feet peeped out, and altogether she more resembled a fairy than anything else. Che Shang inquired her name, to which she replied that it was Wu Kuo, adding that she couldn't understand his devoted attachment to Kuei Sin, as if there was nobody else in the world. Che Shang apologized, saying that he had never before seen anyone so beautiful as Kuei Su, but that he was now aware of his mistake. He then swore everlasting fidelity to her, and was just grasping her hand when he awoke and found his mother rubbing him. It was a dream, but so accurately defined in all its details that he began to think if Wu Kuo was really such as he had seen her, there would be no further need to try for his impracticable cousin. So he communicated his dream to his mother, and she, only too delighted to notice this change of feeling, offered to go to Wu Kuo's house herself. But Che Shang would not hear of this, and arranged, with an old woman who knew the family, to find some pretext for going there, and to report to him what Wu Kuo was like. When she arrived, Wu Kuo was ill in bed, and lay with her head propped up by pillows, looking very pretty indeed. The old woman approached the couch and asked what was the matter, to which Wu Kuo made no reply, her fingers fidgeting all the time with her waistband. "She's been behaving badly to her father and mother," cried the latter, who was in the room. "There's many a one has offered to marry her, but she says she'll have none but Che Shang. And then, when I scold her a bit, she takes on and won't touch her food for days." "Madam," said the old woman, "if you could get that young man for your daughter, they would make a truly pretty pair. And as for him, if he could only see Miss Wu Kor, I'm afraid it would be too much for him. What do you think of my going there and getting them to make proposals?" "No, thank you," replied Wu Kor. "I would rather not risk his refusal." Upon which the old woman declared she would succeed, and hurried off to tell Che Shang, who was delighted to find, from her report, that Wu Kor was exactly as he had seen her in his dream, though he didn't trust implicitly in all the old woman said.
Am I ready?